It's that time of year again, Australia Day. The long weekend is fast approaching, and of course, with Australia Day comes all the anti-Australia BS. The Guardian, which prides itself on being the moral arbiter of progress, published an article today titled Invasion Day 2026. Where will events be held around Australia? It can't even bring itself to say Australia Day. They claim they're helping society and championing inclusivity, yet they happily spout division by referring to the National Day exclusively as Invasion Day, Survival Day, or Day of Mourning. It should be noted, however, that they still include Australia Day in the metadata and tags. I guess that's so when you do a web search for Australia Day, like I did, the Guardian article still pops up. Our favourite taxpayer-funded broadcaster, the ABC, always the uniter, proudly proclaimed, "Invasion Day rallies are going ahead." Geez, what a shocker. Interestingly, they did refer to the National Day as Australia Day in this article. PhD candidate Sapir Sayazdi accused of planning terror attack on Australia Day. So when a potential terror attack is involved, they conveniently label it Australia Day. The article notes that Mr. Sayazdi worked at the CSIRO, our National Science Agency, and had plans to lead a riot on the Gold Coast on Australia Day, and those plans involved the use of Molotov cocktails, which he had purchased supplies and equipment for. He has also been described as very smart and very motivated. It just goes to show you, extremists can be found everywhere in Australia, even in our government agencies and universities. I would never have guessed. In some more nation-stopping national news, the ABC reported, new Alice Springs Mayor will not take part in Australia Day celebrations. Mayor Asta Hill will not celebrate with her local townsfolk and new citizens because it causes harm to First Nations peoples. Can you guess what party she belongs to? Go on, take a guess. The Greens. To quote their own website, meet Asta Hill, the first Greens Mayor of Alice Springs. Yes, the Greens aren't just city folk anymore. They're even colonising our remote towns and villages. Tony Armstrong, always the uniter, has his own taxpayer-funded ABC show. Who would have guessed? It's titled Always Was Tonight, and you can watch it now on iView. The description reads, proud Gamilaroi man Tony Armstrong and a stellar lineup of First Nations talent are set to decolonise the news. Everything in Australia has apparently been colonised, including the news. Of course, this is just one big piece of racialised propaganda released just in time for Australia Day. He starts the episode by saying, tonight we're giving the colony a colonoscopy. This show is black, it's cracked, and it wants its land back. As you'd expect, the ABC studio audience absolutely loves him and hangs on every word. He humbly notes, we all know Aboriginal people make the best ABC content. Obviously, this is a complete double standard, because if a Caucasian presenter said, we all know white people make the best ABC content, there would be non-stop cries of racism. Tony continues to dump on Australia Day, saying that he'll tell some disturbing facts about the day. For example, it's actually Ellen DeGeneres' birthday. He states, no wonder she was cancelled. It's not a date to celebrate, Ellen. He introduces a new segment titled Captain Cooks, where he hosts a barbecue. He lectures the audience about the First Fleet, where he says, some historians believe the gifts distributed by soldiers were coated in smallpox. Within the first couple of years, reports suggest up to half to 70% of the Indigenous population of the southeast were gone. He then goes on to ask, did you know that no member of the First Fleet was recorded as having been infected by smallpox? Suggesting, as some experts have argued, it was deliberately introduced to decimate a population who colonists described as primitive and barbaric, which would have been a deliberate use of biological warfare leading to a genocide. Remember, this is supposed to be a comedy show. They introduce a news segment where the newsreader suggests that people who celebrate Australia Day listen to a radio station named Triple K. The segment features a logo of a person in a white hood and an announcement for the Hottest 100 crosses, a direct play on Triple J's Hottest 100. Again, remember, this is supposed to be a comedy show. They introduce a lady in a rainbow serpent suit who lectures the audience about how the cost of living crisis affects Aboriginal families more than other Australians. She states, "Don't get me started on how remote communities spend $17.70 for Tim Tams. That's double the price in capital cities." She continues, "Communities are being shut down, Tony. First Nations people are being forced off their lands. First colonisation and now this." And then she finishes with, "Sovereignty was never ceded," to much cheering and applause from the sycophantic ABC audience. They jokingly refer to the ABC as the Aboriginal Broadcasting Corporation. Finally, an ABC report I can actually agree with. They have a token white lady on, a so-called emerging ally, who actually does a really good job, screaming out catchphrases such as, "Racism is gross," "Close the gap," "Woo," "Give me a treaty," and "I don't believe in incarceration." But then, regarding the voice referendum, she admits, "No, seriously, voting no was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do," and then proceeds to thank all Aborigines, at which point the audience basically boos her. They do realise she's just an actor. They also somehow included some climate change breaking news, where the reporter states that the Torres Strait Islands are predicted to be underwater within the next 25 years. Again, remember, this is meant to be a comedy. And finally, in his closing monologue, to really stick it to regular Aussies who want to celebrate Australia Day, he states, "I'm sure you're expecting me to use this moment to do a big viral speech about what January 26th means and why you, the good white people watching, ought to feel real sad. But the problem is, you already know. You've heard it before. You know it's wrong. Don't be a dog." So there you go. If you want to listen to a comedy show on the ABC, 25 minutes of unadulterated taxpayer-funded victimhood, please tune in to Tony Armstrong's Always Was Tonight. By the way, if you're interested in a free Australian flag, a viewer reminded me that the Australian government actually does give away free flags. The Australian national flag, the Australian Aboriginal flag, and the Torres Strait Islander flag can be obtained free of charge by contacting the electorate office of your local senator or member of the House of Representatives. Regardless of Tony Armstrong calling us all dogs, happy Australia Day. As I do every year, I'll be taking my family to the local Australia Day event, where all Australians can celebrate this country together.